All right, let's jump back into some more asks. Once Beth comes back and her and Daryl are together, do you think the show will end? A new show after with them established and maybe the groups converged with all the characters again. Yeah, I think it's possible that after they're together and everything, Daryl Dixon, the spinoff, will end. But I don't think that'll be the end of the TWD universe. I think right now they're doing lots of spinoffs to tell various stories. And I really do think that they're going to have all the characters come back together at some point. And the main reason for that, it's not just like wishful thinking. I mean, I'm sure it's that too, but reunion is such a huge theme in The Walking Dead that it would feel unfinished if they didn't come back together. And that's true of everybody. I mean, if you think about the very first season, Rick's whole arc for the first 2 or 3 episodes was looking for his family. And when he left, when he went into the CRM, it was that arc again, trying to find his family. And of course, that's Michonne and his kids first and foremost. But if you look back at 905, which was the last episode he was in when the helicopter took him away, he talked about his family and all of them were standing there on the bridge. It wasn't just Michonne and the others. It was or in the kids. It was Daryl and Carol and Aaron and Maggie and all of them, right? So it doesn't really make sense that he would say that if they weren't going to come back together. And we can see this in other ways too. Obviously, we want Daryl and Rick to reunite. We want Daryl to find out that Rick is alive, which he does not know yet. Um, and I think that there's a big foreshadow for them reuniting in 708, I think it is, when he goes to Hilltop and Daryl has just escaped from the Savior compound and they hug, and Daryl hands him his Colt back. I think that that's a foreshadow of them reuniting after Rick is in the CRM. In that case, it was really Daryl who was taken away rather than Rick because he was taken by Negan and held hostage at the Savior compound. But either way, it was them being separated and one of them being imprisoned. And you know what I mean? It still works. So I think that's a big foreshadow of that. And then we have Carol, who I keep saying, I think she needs to go back to Ezekiel. And actually, if you go back to what I was trying to say about the Dead City season finale, that they have this theme that we have to work through things together. And remember, I said that that would actually work very well for the second season of Daryl Dixon because both he and Carol were working through their issues. Now that she has worked through them, I think she has to return to Ezekiel and they have to go back to their relationship, not just return to him as in live in the same community as him, but I think she has to get back together with him because she left when Henry died and all these issues came up for her again. If she can work her way through those issues, she can go back to her soulmate and be happy with him again. So I think that that's what they're heading toward. So anyway, I do think that they will bring them all back together again. I can't say for how long. Like I hope they do a new show and a new war and some big thing where we get to see them all together. They may or they may not. I couldn't say for sure, but I think at the very least they all need to go and come back together in some way. So that would be my answer for that. Thanks for sending that in. Am I the only one that sees Daryl and Beth having a big family? I would love and can easily see them having 3 little ones, 4 tops. Please tell me I'm not the only one. And I definitely picture Beth suggesting to Daryl that they name their son Merle and him agreeing, of course. Yeah, that would be cute. Have a little Merle running around. Yeah, I mean, if they can, I'm sure they will. Um, but I mean, keep in mind too that if she is looking after a bunch of kids, I mean, they may already have a bunch of kids to take care of. And that by no means is me saying I don't want them to have their own. I absolutely do. And I would love them to have a bunch. But it's not like they won't have any children to look after or anything. But no, it would be fun to have a bunch of little Daryls running around with little tiny crossbows. Like that's totally in my head canon. So no, I mean, I don't think you're the only one. But I just think it's not something we think about too much. We're really more concerned with getting Beth back to begin with and getting the romance to be there. And then we can worry about the little ones, right? But yeah, great point. Thanks for sending that in. All right. Hi, I apologize in advance for my English. I hope I can explain myself better. In the meantime, thank you so much for everything you do. And every time I lose hope, you help me find it again. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad. I really stopped following The Walking Dead after Beth's death. I could never stand her exit from the show. However, I kept myself more or less updated with the progression and evolution of the show. Now we have arrived at the spinoffs, and I fear that TWD will not be able to last that long. Above all, I fear that Beth's return, her evolution, and the resumption of relationships with the main characters, especially Daryl, will not have the necessary time to be developed appropriately and exhaustively. I fear things will be handled in a rather hasty manner. What do you think? More than a question, mine was event. I'm so tired of waiting. Thanks again, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I think that what I hang on to is that this is something that Gimple has been planning for a very, very long time. Um, at least since season 2 or 3, right? Or, well, I guess we should say at least since season 4, but possibly from season 2 or 3, even if he didn't know exactly what it would look like. So I feel like when it happens, um, he will want to make sure that it's given its due, right? And then there's the fact that it's Daryl, and he's, we all know this. He's the most beloved character. He's the cash cow. He's the one that everybody wants to see find happiness. So I feel like with how well they set him and Beth up in season 4, and just the fact that it's Daryl and Daryl's love life, and all of that, I think by the time it comes back around, they're going to have a lot of fans very, very invested in it. People are going to come back who haven't watched the show in a long time. And because of that, of course, they're going to do a good job with it. You know what I mean? They're going to want to bring this to the fans in a way that the fans love. Of course, we're not talking about the carolers here. So, I mean, this isn't something that I sit around worrying about, that it's not going to be handled well. I think it'll be handled just fine. And I have a lot of faith in both Gimple and Kang that they will handle it well. Um, Keep in mind that Kang, who is now one of the showrunners, wrote Still, and we all loved that episode, right? She's not by far the only great writer on TWD, but between Gimple and her, I think that I think it'll be lovely. I think with all of the setup that they have, not just, I mean, of course, the biggest thing is Beth and Daryl in season 4 still alone, but the fact that they have scenes that we haven't seen yet, that they went to all of this trouble to give us this fake out. And you know what I mean? I almost feel like they would have to try really hard to make it suck because with all of this already in the bag, it's going to be hard for it to not be really good, if that makes sense. So, um, I don't worry that it's gonna not be good. I think it's gonna be fine, and I'm just sitting here waiting for it to unfold for us. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but like I said, this just isn't something that I sit around worrying about. I'm more excited to see what does happen. So anyway, I think that's the last one that I have for now. Yep, it is. So feel free to send in more, and I'm sure I will be back next week with more videos. Everyone have a lovely week, and I will talk to you soon.